today we're gonna take a deep look at a book in the Bible which once were so scandalous that young Jewish men were not allowed to read it.
Yeah, let's read it.
The Song of Songs.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a book about love, but before we talk about the scripture, we want to tell our own love story.
Yeah. Ida and I are both in the Salvation Army, and our love story actually begins at this huge event that we called the Boundless Congress, where more than 15,000 people from the Salvation Army came to London, England to celebrate together. And I bumped into this man that we called the General. And when I bumped into him, I asked if I could take a photo, and he was very kind and took a photo with me. But when I walked away, I noticed that his photographer had somehow cut my head off.
And that happens to Stephen once in a while because he is 7 feet tall. A tall man.
So I decided to do what anybody today would do. I posted it to social media. Let me see if I can get a few likes, if I can get a few laughs, and let's see what can happen.
The next morning, I wake up and I'm in London too, together with a friend. And she wakes me up showing me this picture and we laugh and laugh and laugh. We walk out and I bump into this man immediately.
Yes, she did. And what you have to know is that I'm an officer in the Salvation Army, and within this there are certain requirements. And I was single at the time, and in my life I was looking for someone who was also an officer, who was single, and who I would find attractive and want to be with. So when Ida comes up to me, she has all this energy, she introduces herself. Hi, I'm Ida Amelia from Norway, I saw your picture, yada yada yada. And I immediately was like, this girl is gorgeous, hello. And so I had to check out 2 things on her before I could do anything else.
Really?
No, not those things. The first thing I had to look at was her epaulet, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed. And so I looked at her epaulet and I noticed it was red. Now, in the Salvation Army, that means you're an officer or you're a pastor in the Salvation Army. And so I'm like, whoop, 1 check, done. And then I look a little bit more below that. To her finger, guys, not to anything else. And now she has a ring on it, but she didn't then. And so I was like, wait, she's an officer, she's single, she's gorgeous, she has this peppy spirit. Who is this girl?
So right after that we start to talk on Facebook, and a few months later we start to talk every day on Facebook, and then we start to Skype.
Skype's cool. I like Skype, yeah.
And then I decided to go all the long way to New York to celebrate Christmas together with Stephen. And half year later, we were married.
She liked it, and she put a ring on it.
Yes, I did. Really?
Yeah. So this book, The Song of Songs, is a book that's all about love. And one quick thing about the very beginning of the book, it actually says that it was written by Solomon. But it's important that we point out that it most likely wasn't written by Solomon, but it was written in his tradition of wisdom. So it would have been seen as similar to the types of things he would have produced himself. But it's essentially an 8-chapter book that is really, like I said, all about love. The title of the book, The Song of Songs, is actually a Hebrew expression that is kind of like saying, this is the greatest song of all time. Okay? That's what it means.
So, in the book of Song of Songs, we're introduced to a young couple.
Hey.
The man is called the shepherd, and the lady is called the beloved. And they are together, but they are not yet married. But they want to be. And they want to be together as much as possible because they're so in love. But unfortunately, they separate, and then they come back together, and they separate, and they come back together. And this is one of the main topics of this book. The desire they have to be together. Another topic that we see again and again and again is how they describe and give compliments to each other. So again and again, the man says to the woman, "You're so beautiful." And then the woman say, "Oh, have you seen my man? Have you seen my man?" So that's also a very important part of the Song of Songs.
So what does this book about love have to teach us today? We're going to look at 3 different passages in this book and see what they have to say to today's audience. The first of these is actually found in the 4th chapter, and it's the 1st through the 3rd verses.
Oh, how beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes behind your veil are doves. Your hair is like a flock of goats, descending from the hills of Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep just shorn, coming up from the washing. Each has its twin, not one of them is alone. Your lips are like a scarlet ribbon. Your mouth is lovely. Your temples behind your veil are like the halves of a pomegranate.
Today, if someone would call a lady a sheep, the lady would most likely have been deeply offended.
Wouldn't go well.
Don't do that, guys. But in these days, in the ancient Near Eastern world, this was the best compliment you could have given. So here we see the shepherd praising and giving compliments to his beloved.
So something that this passage is teaching us today is that we need to use words to share how we feel with our beloved. Now, there are a few different ways that we can share words, and the first one of these is to give compliments. And this is actually really fitting because in the Norwegian culture, they don't give compliments. They don't use a lot of words, actually. And so Ida and I have been working through this in our marriage. So this is good. Let me just give you the opportunity. Ida, give me a compliment.
Like, you look good. Good?
That was okay. But try to be a little bit more specific with it. You know, when you give a compliment, don't just say something general, but show that you've put a little bit of attention into it and you've actually looked more deeply. So be a little bit more specific with your compliment.
You look good in that color.
That is a great step. See, use our words to give compliments to one another, but be specific, and that way they know that they're heartfelt. But another thing we can do with our words is that we can share encouragement. Now, sometimes compliments can be encouraging, but this is a little bit different. Sometimes those people in our life, our beloved, can do great things, but they may not believe that they can do great things, and so they need a cheerleader. They need someone to tell them what we think they can do. And so let's try this. You share some encouragement with me.
You are my favorite preacher. You should preach more often.
I like this girl. She's all right, yeah. But you know, you have these opportunities between one another to encourage one another, and that builds the other person up and will help them accomplish what they may not be able to accomplish without a little help. But another thing, and it goes with both of these, and you were much better the second time, but when we give compliments and when we give encouragement, we have to be sure that our tone of voice is actually believable. So if we sound sad, drained, or uninterested, it really will minimize how impactful our words can be. So you saw the second time Ida was much more happy and energetic, and that's what you want to try to do. So this passage teaches us to use words with one another, to give compliments, to be encouraging, and to do so in a positive manner.
So the next passage we're going to take a deeper look at is Song of Songs, chapter 8, verse 4. And this passage is so important that it's mentioned 3 times in this small book.
Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires.
So how does this scripture apply to our everyday life? I found a clip on YouTube that describes a challenge we face today perfectly. Let's have a look.
Here we are at the Utah State University Library for some interviewing to ask people if they believe that men and women can be just friends. So let's go inside and see what we can find. Do you believe that men and women can be just friends?
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
I think it'd be hard to do.
Yes.
I mean, we're all men.
I know.
So of course we're going to have those feelings, and we can be content with just friendship, and we can be silent regarding those feelings, but we're gonna have them.
Okay, we'll walk with you. Do you believe men and women can be just friends?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, do you have any guy friends right now who you're just friends with?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All my best friends are guys. Dave.
Trevor.
Taylor Mulford.
Bobby.
Yeah.
How long have you known Trevor?
2 years.
Of those guy friends, do you think any of them secretly like you? And be honest,
Probably, yeah.
do you think that guy is interested in you?
Yes. Okay, maybe you can only be just friends in high school, because most guys won't just be my friend.
So, ladies, we need to talk. This is about us. Because there are some ladies who keep men hanging around who they have no romantic interest in just because they love the attention. Stop it! It's not right! It's wrong. You know, as a Christian, we have the responsibility to protect our own heart and protect the hearts of others. If you know it's not going to be anything, make sure you tell it with words, but also in your actions. Don't arouse the love if it's not going to come. You got it? Good.
You feel better?
Feel better.
Okay. Well, our third and final passage that we're going to look at is actually in chapter 8, and it's verses 6 and 7.
Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death, its jealousy unyielding as the grave. It burns like blazing fire, like a mighty flame. Many waters cannot quench love, rivers cannot sweep it away. If one were to give all the wealth of one's house for love, it would be utterly scorned.
In the church today, we seem to be so afraid to talk about or teach about sex and attraction. But what these scriptures reveal to us is that they're actually a gift from God. Sex and attractiveness between a man and a woman is actually a part of His beautiful creation. And when we look back to the creation story and we see that the scriptures tell us that the man and woman were together and they were naked and they were without shame. And so this is all meant to be a part of our life and our story. It's not something that's dirty that we can't touch.
So even if we are far from the Garden of Eden today, God has given us this as an example for us. Love between a man and a woman is a beautiful thing. It's a gift. We should not be afraid of it. Seems like we take education for everything we do. We go to school to get a degree. We take driving lessons to get our license. And when you're pregnant, you even take a course on how to breathe while giving birth. Still, we are afraid to educate ourselves when it comes to relationships and marriage. And I strongly disagree with that. You know what? There's so much good resources out there that you can benefit from.
And some of those resources are books. And, there's a few that we would recommend. There's one called You and Me Forever by Francis and Lisa Chan. A really good book and very easy to read. You have The Meaning of Marriage by Tim and Kathy Keller.
Very good book.
And you also have The 5 Love Languages. Another great resource, and there's many more, but these are 3 that we really like. But another resource that is at our fingertips is to go get counseling. I strongly refute this idea that there's got to be something really wrong before we go ask for help. Why can't we just use counseling as a way to learn how to communicate better or to learn a little bit more about our spouse? I think counseling and finding someone to talk to can be a great benefit for these types of relationships.
And all the way in the end, we've gone through 250 days of marriage.
Only by His grace.
Any advice to give?
That old proverb is right. Happy wife, happy life.
You go.